Hi there, it's Jennifer, and today I'm here to do another video in my series on long distance walking. And if you've watched my other videos, I'll link a few of those in the space below. But if you've watched those, you know that I am training to walk a full marathon in January of 2016. Now I have done 19 half marathons, and I have done 4 full marathons as a walker. And I just did my last half marathon, it was my 19th one, was in January of 2015. And, but the last time that I did I just say full? No, my last half marathon was in January 2015. And then it's been more than 5 years since I've done a full marathon. And like I said, I am a walker, and I love long distance walking. I've been doing it for about 9 years now. And so today I'm talking about choosing a training schedule. Now in my past videos, I was really talking about getting active if you haven't been active, but this is really about training for a race. And I'm going to talk about training schedules even for doing a 5K, 3.1 miles, if you have not been terribly active but want to challenge yourself to your first race. I'm also going to be talking about other distances, 10K, half marathon, full marathon for walkers, and how to choose a walking plan for you. It's really a good idea to follow a training schedule, and I would strongly recommend, if you're going to be doing a really long distance, especially a full marathon, to join some kind of a running club. Running clubs do often allow walkers. I think that if you're training for a distance that's really taxing on your body, it's just good to have some nice, good, solid information from experts. And so I would recommend that for your first full marathon. I actually was in a training club for 2 of my full marathons, my first 2. And so the first thing I would say for motivation is find a friend who wants to do something like this with you. And it just, for a shorter distance, and I would say even for me, I've done some half marathons on my own, not really on purpose. Well, one of them, I did a Disney half marathon. My husband and I went to Disneyland, and there was a race scheduled at the same time. And so I did that one by myself. Some other times I've been registered for races, and I had a friend who said that, you know, they would do the race with me and then they didn't for some reason, so I had to do it by myself. I honestly don't think that I could do a full marathon by myself. First of all, it's hours, you know, it takes me 6.5 hours to walk a full marathon. But it's also, I don't know, I think kind of a mind game, and I'm gonna do a video later in this series about the emotions that come with doing longer distances, because they can be pretty emotional experiences. It's hard on your body, and it's just really nice to have someone with you so that when you're feeling tired, they can kind of encourage you, and then usually the table will turn, and then they'll be feeling tired, and you can be there to encourage them. So I think that's a really good idea. I like to walk by myself during the week to get out, because I like to just sort of clear my head. But when I'm starting to get up to longer distances, 8, 9, 10 miles, I really like to have somebody with me. So I just have someone to talk to, and the time goes by faster, and we can push each other in terms of our pace and all of that kind of stuff. So, okay, so let's talk about some training plans. There are so many resources for doing races online that you really don't have to pay or go out and buy a book. I am going to do another video in this series on resources, because I do like to read things and get books to read while I'm training. They're just inspirational for me, and so I'll be giving you some of those things. But today we're talking about stuff that's free and available online. I'm going to link these different training programs over on my blog at BusyBeingJen.com, so you can go over and check those out. You can find all different kinds of training plans, and if you find a training plan that is for runners, you can use that as a walker. Some are specific, like one of them I'm going to be sharing today is specific to walkers, but really anything that a runner does in training, pretty much as a walker, you can do the same thing. So let's start, and say you've never done a race before, say you haven't really been into doing much in terms of distance with walking, and you want to do a 5K, so 3.1 miles. The training plan that I found for this particular one is by Hal Higdon, and he is a well-known trainer for races. And so he has this novice 5K training program that is an 8-week training program to do a 5K. And so really there are just 4 days a week that you need to get out there and train. The other days of the week are either rest days, or maybe you just go out and do a light walk, and some training programs will talk about doing cross training on those days, like maybe riding a bicycle, or you can even strength train on those days. Training your core is really important because your back will get sore when you do long distances. So if you have a strong stomach, it supports your back. And so those are some things that you can do for cross training as well. But this particular training schedule that I'm looking at by Hal Higdon is, it mentions running, but as I mentioned, you can do that as a walker. And this one says on week 1, to do a 1.5 miles, 3 days a week, and then on a 4th day of the week, just walk for 30 to 60 minutes. So, you know, it doesn't have to be a particular distance. And so you have to be able to get out there for 1.5 miles to start this. So if you are not walking that distance at this point, you'd want to work up to that before you'd start the training program. And then it just kind of increases. So week 2, it goes to 1.75 miles. On one day, 1.5 miles, another day, 1.75 miles on the 3rd day, and then 30 to 60 minute walk on another day. And then the next week it bumps you up to 2 miles, 2 days a week, and then the 1.5 miles in there, and then bumping up the extra walk to 40 to 60 minutes. And it just slowly increases until the week of the race, when you're doing a 3-mile walk, and then a 2-mile walk, and then there's 2 rest days, and then race day. So when you're doing a 3-mile walk, you've pretty much done a 5K. I mean, you just have to do 0.1 miles farther to finish the 5K. So it's not a huge commitment. It's not like you have to get out there every single day of the week, because stuff in our lives gets in the way, you know, and kind of keeps us from doing that. So you have some rest days in there. So that was a 5K program. There's also a 10K program that I was looking at from Hal Higdon's website as well. And so this one talks about strength training and stretching on those days that you're not walking. And then it starts with, this is an 8-week training program as well. And it goes from 2.5 miles one day, and then 2 miles another day, and then on another day, 3 miles. And it has a lot of cross training mixed in. And then eventually you're working up to the 7th week of training. You're doing 3 miles, then 2 miles, then a 5.5 mile walk, and then leading up to the race. So this is another one. This particular one has 1, 2. Yeah, this one just has 3 days a week that you're actually getting out there to walk, and then it encourages cross training on other days. So, so yeah, that's for the 10K. And then there's a different website that's called Coach Jenny, spelled Jenny, coachjenny.com. If I'm not mistaken, this is Jenny Hadley, who is married to, I mentioned this in another video. I think it was the first video I did in this series about the guy, John Bingham, who was really overweight and really unhealthy, and he just decided to start running, and he ran to the end of his driveway and back. That was this run the first day. And now he does marathons. He prides himself, I don't know if he prides himself on this, but he jokingly calls himself the Penguin, because he does races really slow, and he says, like, wagwan folks, is his little tagline. And so he's kind of the advocate for all the slow people out there doing races. And if I'm not mistaken, Jenny Hadley is his wife. So she is, she's not a waddler in races. She has been a long distance runner for a long time, and she's a trainer. So anyway, she's got this website, and she actually has training plans that are specific to walkers. So if you look it up, and I'll link that over on my blog, if you look it up, she will have, like, there'll be a training plan for runners and then a training plan for walkers. So she has a specific one for walkers. This one starts out, it's all in minutes, except 1 day a week. So it says, on this one, it says to walk 40 minutes, this is week 1, walk 40 minutes one day, walk 40 minutes another day, and, oh, this starts out with only 3 days a week. Oh, it moves to more than that. And then start with just 3 miles. That's your long distance walk for your training for a half marathon. This one's a half marathon I'm looking at. So 13.1 miles. And then as you move along, the number of minutes that you're out there increases a bit on certain days, and then your long walks go from 3 miles, 4 miles, 4 miles, then the next week 5 miles, then 6, then back to 4, then 7, 8, 9, then back to 6. So you're sort of giving your body a little bit of a rest, and then 10 miles, and then 8 miles. So it just kind of mixes up, and it, the distances you're doing, and then slowly gets you closer to that half marathon distance. Usually in training programs, you don't ever get up to the full distance in your training. So for the 4 full marathons that I've walked in the past, the longest distance I think I ever did leading up to 26.2 miles in the full marathon was, I think the longest distance I trained was 21 miles. And you really don't need to. It puts a lot of stress on the body, and so you want to be careful not to overdo it in your training, but it helps you get to kind of past that point of where you might think you want to quit. Because for me, it's about the 19th mile that I'm just thinking, I just don't know if I can do this. You know, 19 miles, and I still have so many more to go, and so it gets you past that point, and once you get to the point where you have only 5 more miles to go to finish the full marathon distance, you're gonna finish. So yeah, so those that was the half marathon training plan, and then the one that I've printed out here for myself is the full marathon distance, because that's the one I'm going to be training for. Now this particular full marathon training program is 20 weeks. So yeah, it's a 5-month training program, and I'm going to be starting August, September, October, November, December, January. Yeah, so I'll be starting in August, about mid-August, on this training program. It'll be a little bit different for me because at the beginning of August, I'm gonna do a half marathon. There's one that's in my town. It's a trail race, and you can't even really call it a race. It's a very rocky trail, and people do not try to get their fastest time on this particular course, because you break an ankle if you try to run really fast on this. So I will already have been up to 13.1 miles at the beginning of August. So then what I'm gonna do is just pull back, and so I will have developed the strength to do a half marathon distance by that time, but then I'm gonna pull back and start this training plan. So this one is a Coach Jenny training plan. I'm not sure if I'm gonna use this one in particular, but this one starts out in kind of the same thing. It gives you the number of minutes. Like the first week you walk 45 minutes one day, 45 minutes another day, 40 minutes another day, and then you do 5 miles on the weekend. And then it continues to increase, so your midweek training walks are getting a little bit longer, and then your weekly walks increase incrementally. So there's 5 miles one week, then 6, then 7, then back to 6, then 8, then 9, then back down to 6, then 10 and 12 and 7 and 14 and 7 and 16. So you see how it goes. It is, sorry, I've got windows all over this room where I film, and there's light coming in, kind of funny on my head there. But anyway, so it just kind of increases slowly. For my first half marathon, actually I think for my first two, I did a training program where every week it just got more and more and more in terms of distance. And so it would go, 12, then 13, then 14, then 15, then 16, 17, 18, 19, and there were a couple of disadvantages to that. For one thing is I have trouble with my feet, and so I felt like increasing the distance every single week was really hard on my feet and made them sore. Now I have some different shoes now, which I will talk about in a video that I'm gonna do coming up here about shoes. But so it might be different with my new shoes that I have, but I also found that toward the end, because I was going out for such long distances, I sort of didn't have a life anymore. Because every single Saturday, I was having to go out for this really long walk. And so what I did for my last two full marathons is that once I got up to 8 miles, 8 miles was my go-to number. So I would do 8, and then the next week 10, and then 8, and then 12, 8, 14, 8, 16, 8, 18. And so that way, it wasn't putting as much stress on my feet every single week. I was just always backing off to 8 every other week. And the other thing was that every other Saturday, I only had to get out there for 2 hours, as opposed to, 4.5, 5 hours, and kind of taking up your entire life, not being able to get out of town, because if you go out of town and you've got a 16-mile walk to do, you're probably not gonna do it. But if you have an 8-mile walk, then you're probably more likely to do that by yourself. So I train on these shorter walks by myself during the week, and then my friend and I meet on the weekends to do the longer ones. So my friend Susan, who's gonna do this full marathon with me, and she's also gonna do the half marathon with me in August, she and I will be training on our own during the week for our shorter walks, and then meeting on the weekends to do our longer walks. And we already have some vacation things planned in the fall, and we're making sure that on the week that we have that we're going to be doing a vacation, that we're both going at the same time, and that we're having a shorter distance to do by ourselves, so that we're saving those longer walks for when we're together. So I just think that training schedules, first of all, are smart, because then you're not going to do something stupid and hurt yourself. You also know if you're staying on track with training for whatever distance you're planning to do. And if you get one that's by a reputable person, then you know that it's kind of a tried and true method for training. And it's inspirational, and it lets you know what you have to do. So you can look at this and say, okay, today's a rest day, I don't have to get out. But tomorrow I need to get out early, because if you have to go to work, I need to go out and I need to walk 45 minutes, or I need to walk 3 miles, whatever kind of training schedule you have. It just helps you to stay motivated and to know if you're staying on track. So I would really encourage you, if you've never done a race before, to consider doing a race in your area. You want to check to see if the race that you're going to do is walker friendly, because some races really are geared just toward, gosh, this light on my head just looks so weird. But some races are really geared just toward runners, and so if you're walking, that means you're going to be dragging across the finish line, the very last person. I always hate that. So for me, I like to get into walker-friendly races, so I'm not the only walker. And did I say that I'm going to be doing another video about some of the races I've done that are walker-friendly, and how you can tell if they're walker-friendly. Some of them will call themselves a walk-run, or if they call themselves a fun run, then usually there are walkers in those too. But it's really not unusual for walkers to be involved in races where there are runners, so don't let that kind of scare you away from doing a race. But I would encourage you to think about that. Think about some race that you could do. If you've never done one before, you might want to start with a 5K or maybe a 10K, and then that just might inspire you to do a half marathon at some point. I'm not thinking that most people are going to want to walk a full marathon. That's kind of an extreme thing, but it's a distance that to me is really challenging and also rewarding, and so it's kind of fun for me to do that. So that's it for today's video. I hope it was helpful to you. Remember to go over to my blog at BusyBeingJen.com where you can check out these links and take a closer look at some of these training schedules, and I would just encourage you to pick one of those and get started. So I hope you guys are doing well, and I will see you again. If you're not subscribed to my channel, just hit that button right there. YouTube will let you know when I upload new videos to this channel, and I will see you again. Bye-bye.